I think a full-on riot ensued, possibly.
Yeah. Well, everybody in that place was fighting. Frat boy against frat boy.
And we were banned for life from that college. I'll just say it that way.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, feel free to support the podcast for $1 a month over at patreon.com/thiswasthescene. This is for anyone who's been listening for a while and might want to donate. Bluechannel was a NJ band from the 90s. It's one of those names that you heard of, but you probably didn't see live. It's probably because they just spent a lot of time practicing a lot and not really playing shows. So they did like the opposite of what a typical band does, which I give them mad respect for. Here is a write-up from some magazine article that the boys sent me. Since forming in 92, Bluechannel has led a torrid existence. In 98, after a year-and-a-half-long breakup, the quintet resurrected itself, making the post-punk world a better place once again. Sometimes internal conflict and breaking inside of bending can stimulate young rock bands. Bluechannel proves that point with a catch-scratch, double-axe attack, fever drumming, and clearly enunciated vocals recalling some board-certified indie rock version of the Foo Fighters. These Jersey boys know how to rock, emanating a rowdy, 20-something blue-collar vibe. Looking at Life Through Dirty Glasses releases far more pent-up aggression than a marathon drinking session after a stressful work week. Thank you for that right up there, Amy Skyretto. I think that's how you say it. I reached out to the BC boys on their Facebook page, and I got Brian and Christian on the Skype, and this is what we chat about. Three-Piece Crank, the NY Scene, Spunk Volume 1, their song Looking at Life Through Dirty Glasses, did they like playing shows, releasing some stuff on Mint 400 Records, getting interest from Drive-Thru Records, the riot they caused, and a ton more. Make sure you check out their latest release, This As a Drawing, which just came out on Mint 400 Records, and this is what Mint 400 Records had to say. Bluechannel was around for the whole mid-90s era, but this newest release, This As a Drawing, was written in 2008 and shows that it stuck to its roots and remained gritty and punky while having more sophisticated lyrics and songwriting structures. The obvious comparisons were Samiam and the Get Up Kids, but, and I say this a lot, as Mint 400 Records says this a lot, it's more likely that they shared influences rather than being directly influential on Bluechannel. You can check that out by going to mint400records.com. You can also go on Spotify or wherever you stream music, and you can listen to this record. It's really fucking good, and you should go do that after listening to this podcast. Lastly, two more ways to support the podcast. One, you could donate one time at thiswasthescene.com. It's a purple button in the homepage. It's different than the Patreon. The Patreon's like a monthly thing that comes out of your bank account for $1 a month, $12 a year. This is like a one-time thing, so if you want to be like, hey, man, here's like $5, or here's like 10 million bucks, then I hope that PayPal will allow that transaction to happen. So if it does, and you want to donate that, that's fucking dope. Two, you could buy merch on thiswasthescene.com. I've been doing these limited release t-shirts as of late, and they've been actually doing pretty well. So if you want to be the first one to know about them before, because I do a limited run, and then I announce it to my email list, and then I wait a couple days, then I put it out on Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to be the first to know about these releases, then go sign up on my email list. So just go to the website, and there'll be like a pop-up box that happens, and you can put your email in there. And that's it. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. I'm really excited that you guys finally are doing this because people have been asking, like, what's up with Bluechannel? Like, when the fuck are they going to talk? And I think it's been like a couple of years that people have been pointing that out. So this is awesome that I finally get to talk to you guys.
Wow. I just want to say that's surprising.
Why?
We never felt like we were, a majority of the popular vote back then. We always kind of flew under the radar and, didn't play way too many shows with, a bunch of other bands from New Jersey. We just kind of flew by the seat of our pants doing our own thing. And we never really thought we were making much waves here.
It's funny that you say that because I would totally agree with you. So I was in a band, Lanemeyer, and we played with you guys. I remember one show, and I brought this up in an episode. It's a kind of a funny story about what was your bassist name?
Chris
Chris.
Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a show we played with you guys at at Skaters Worlds, and I think Alan Rappaport put the show on. Do you guys remember Alan from Flipside?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I do. Yep.
So he puts the show on, and I think I didn't have equipment, and I told the story. This was like way back when this podcast started, and I went up to your bassist and I was like, "Hey man, can I borrow your bass? Because I don't have it." I think I was literally borrowing his bass, which is a total ballsy move on my part. And he was like super hesitant. He's like, I don't know, man. Like, I just got this, and I'm just like, shit. Well, is that a yes or no? Like, we're about to go on, and I just remember like that was I don't know why I brought that story back up again, but like
I actually remember that. I totally remember that. I remember that show, and I remember that ask too. So did you wind up using his bass, or?
Yeah, I did. I think I
Okay.
think it was the bass and his rig, which I think what I remember from the conversation is that it all was pretty brand new. And looking back on my end, that's such a stupid question to ask somebody. Like, that's such a dick move. And I was kind of thrown that he didn't quickly say yeah, and I'm like, kind of gave him this eye. I'm like, okay, I guess that's cool. So I just wanted to bring that up, knowing that I talked about that, to not dismiss the fact that I did do that and that I did bring that up in this podcast.
Well, we each have our own personalities in that group, and and that's why there were times where we just fell off the radar, and then maybe a year or two later we popped back up doing shows because we have our own personalities, and sometimes we didn't clash. We clash with each other, but yeah, most of our equipment really didn't see the outside air too much. We practice constantly. Just sitting in a studio for 3 days a week. Maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, writing music and playing music, and that's what we did, and over again. And then we'd go out and play one show in like 2 or 3 months.
That's what I remember. And the way, I don't know if you guys have heard any episodes, but like the way I structure this is I go back in time and kind of like led to the scene and like the band and everything. But I want to stick here for a second because of what you said about not thinking people like that you really stood out in the scene. And I kind of felt that when you guys played shows, live, like you even kind of thought that as well. Like you would kind of be like, there was this, I don't know, like, did you guys say that out loud when you played shows? Be like, all right, if anyone's paying fucking attention, not like that, but
No, we may have said something along those lines. Thank you very much. Hi, we're Bluechannel. Goodbye, good night, guys. In case you forgot, we're Bluechannel. See you in a couple of weeks or so, or a month, or 2 months. Who knows what kind of mood we'll be in. And
we all. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say we all at the time had like full-time jobs too. So outside of the practice that we were super dedicated to, like Chris was saying, getting there like a few times a week and kind of going at it for a few hours. We would try to make the shows that we went to count too. So like for us, our home base was really Maxwell's shows. My brother, who was the drummer at the time, he kind of had a relationship there. And I remember the first time we played. Chris, I think was it the first time that we actually sell out when we played Maxwell's, which led us to be able to be invited back, I think.
Yeah, a couple of shows after that, we just, because all of our friends are from the area, Jersey City, North Bergen, Hoboken, that area. So, whenever we play a show there, we'd sell it out. So it kind of made us look good in that aspect.
But then when we would venture outside of that area, I had a lot of friends kind of in the scene. So we would go to shows, but we never really felt like fully a part of, if that's a good way to describe it.
yeah, like did you guys, so this will kind of lead me into starting off, like going back in time, like did you guys were you a part of the scene in general prior to the band starting, or like did getting into the band bring you into the scene?
Well, before Bluechannel, me and Jason, the other guitar player, and Jamie became part of it. We're in a band called Three Piece Crank. And we did a lot of shows with the Fiends because Jerry was a good friend of ours, and Joey and Jimmy. And that's what kind of brought us into that scene, because we would do a lot of shows at Studio One and the Pipeline, and a lot of those smaller punk rock clubs with them. We became friends with Puggle and all those other local bands, Doggy Dog or Dog Pound, and Flatus, Ted Flatus. So we were and we weren't part of the scene. We were part of that kind of group, that generation of music. And at that point, our singer James Bean left us and was in a band called Liquid Spider Station. I think for a while he was like up and running to be like the singer for the Misfits before Michael Graves.
Oh shit!
I think he was singing with them for a little bit, doing practices. That left me, Jamie, and Jason just trying to continue writing music, and that's when Jamie's brother Brian, on the other line right here, joined us, and that's when Bluechannel started. So we already kind of had a sense of like booking shows and stuff like that. And again, we would do some local bars and clubs in Jersey City and Hoboken, and then finally got our foot in the door at Maxwell's, because we all grew up going to Maxwell, seeing all of our favorite bands there. So that was always like a dream of ours to play Maxwell. So that's basically where it all started.
I felt like there was such a divide between, there was the club shows. I talked about this in other interviews, but like I remember there was just a hard line between playing clubs and then Legion Hall shows. It was so different, and you could be a band that could bleed into both. But I've always felt it was easier. The Legion Hall, like the local shows like Legion Halls and churches and firehouses and shit. I felt that was like so much of a better venue than going to Pipeline or Maxwell's or like in the city, because I always thought you'd show up and there was like no real crowd that would go to that.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever so did you guys ever like experience, even on like, were you guys even like, besides playing the clubs, were you guys going there in general just to watch bands play?
The local shows, Nutley had a good Legion Hall, and they were always doing shows there. And every now and then, we'd know of a band or two that we're familiar with playing there, so we'd go there. I don't know, like who? Brian Weston was one of the bands we used to go see in the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And
we would definitely hit the
Garden Variety.
Exactly.
So we would go see them. But I know what you're saying about the clubs, because we played in the city a lot. Continental Divide, CBGB's, Coney Island High. And it just seemed like we were always, we always got like a good Friday night or Saturday night slot, but it was just, we're playing to like 5 or 6 people.
Do you ever like think, because people talk up CBGB's and Coney Island High, and like back in the day was Tramps and Wetlands and all that, like those venues were only fucking cool when there was a crowd. If there was no crowd, those venues sucked. Like, am I the only one who thought this?
Yeah. No, agreed.
It's especially for a band. Like if you were there drinking, it's like, all right, cool. It's a cool little dirt bar to drink at, and it's it's fucking CBGB's. But like to play there as a band and you're at this place, it's almost defeating, because we went through this too. Like you'd show up and you think at least this is gonna be so great, and you drive into the fucking city, find some place to park your van or your cars, and then bring all your shit in, and there'd be like nobody there because just there was no local scene in New York. And I was like, this fucking blows.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, throughout the 90s, it didn't seem like there was any kind of scene in New York City.
I don't think there ever was. Like, I never thought there was a scene unless a big band was there, and then people would come out of the woodwork.
That was one in a blue moon, like when Rancid would play there. And I remember they had the CMJs. There was a lot of good bands that went through there, but just on their own like shows. There was one time Face to Face played there on a Saturday, and they played. I remember I went to the matinee. They did a 4:00 show, which I went to. And then they had another show there at 8:00. And even at the 4:00 show, I was excited because there's literally like 11 people. And this was Face to Face. This was like
holy shit,
right after Big Choice came out. So they were, touring around promoting that. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that there's not a lot of people here. This is Face to Face.
Wow. That's fucking crazy.
New York City was a weird scene. Definitely. It was just too all over the place and too many options and places. And that's when you lost that, like what you had when you'd play the hall show or the smaller show in Jersey. There was no kind of mirroring that. I don't think. That's just my take on it. But
yeah, man, there was no unity there. There was no like the local, because I got to witness the the Jersey, like the local shows, and I always felt that the reason I started a podcast about this is because I loved it so much. But like anytime when people would talk like, "Oh man, you're so close to New York," I was like, "Fuck that shit." It's like, I mean, it's cool.
It was that going on over there.
Yeah, I was like, it's all bullshit unless you're seeing. I mean, you can go back and see YouTube videos of bands playing there, and it looks amazing. It's like you'll see No Effects playing at CBGBs, and the place is going off the walls and shit. But it's like, no, that was unless you had put in a lot of time, which granted you deserved. If you were there just trying to build a following, that was like the worst place to go. So when you guys got together as Bluechannel, were you focused solely on clubs and then kind of caught wind that there's local shows were going on and were like, oh, we should get involved in that more?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what pulled us more into like, you know, the more New Jersey scene, and I mean, we obviously from Jersey City, but kind of like, you know, branching out, you know, meeting the folks from Little Falls and just kind of all those different places, was when we got on the comp, just another comp with Puncture Points.
Yeah.
So it was like Annie's label. Yeah. So when we got on that comp and one of our songs that's on our first record was on there, I think that kind of put us on the map in terms of the scene is concerned. We had Chris and Carrie, this song, Chris and Carrie was on there, and I think that kind of
was
Jared
at Decibel Records also
our introduction
had
to
on one
everybody.
of his comps. And
Correct.
Wait, which comp was this?
what was the Spunk Volume 1, I think it was, the Jared's
Yeah,
Jared
we were on Spunk Volume 1 and
that
just
really
another
did a lot
comp
for
from
us,
Puncture
too.
Point.
Oh. Wait, so Jared from Face First and then Houston
Yep.
Calls, he put that out?
Yeah. Was it Spunk Volume 1 was the
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
We had the song Clean Wipe on there.
Yeah.
Let's see, because you guys are on, yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you guys are on the NJPP archives. Do you guys know that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just clicked on that song. Yeah, the Spunk Volume 1 comp comes up. Oh my God, that's so fun. I never remember seeing this comp. Missing Children.
Missing band, Bluechannel.
So when you guys got together, like, what would you say in the beginning were? When I hear you guys, I think of like Samiam as an influence. That's like
Absolutely.
okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I mean, so like when you guys got together, the Christian, you said the previous band you were in. What was the difference in sound between that and Bluechannel?
It was almost along the same lines, a little bit more on the 3 or 4 chord punk rock songs. You know, I was just developing my own sound with the leads I was doing, and Jason and I always matched our guitars well. Having similar tastes in music and knowing what we liked, it just the sound of our songs just developed from there. We always liked guitar riffs. We didn't want to just keep doing the same 3 or 4 chord songs over and over again. We were trying to look for different riffs and just different ways to present the sound of the songs. And I think that's what we were mostly focusing on. And that's why we spent so much time just sitting together and playing and rehearsing. It's basically as simple as that. Every time a new record would come out of a band we liked, we'd listen to it, and that would influence whatever song we were writing at the time.
Brian, when you joined, when the band came together, were you doing anything prior to that, or was this the first band? I forget if you said that, if this was the first band or not you were in.
Yeah, no, that was the first band. So I was the little brother of Jamie, and when their singer for Three Piece Crank had left, I used to just hang out and they used to practice at my family's house, at my parents' house, and I used to sit in the basement and just watch him. I always loved to write and stuff, so I wanted to kind of throw my name in the hat in terms of them looking for a new singer. So I remember I had like a 73 Dodge Dart Swinger. I just started driving. I had this huge old jalopy that my dad helped me out with. I met with Jason, and he brought an acoustic guitar, and you could sit like 6 across the front. It was like one of those cars. And he was sitting on the passenger side, and I was sitting on the driver's side, and he started playing, and we literally wrote Chris and Carrie in like probably just a couple hours sitting in that car. And that's where it started from there. So it's kind of built from there. But that was my first band and my first time like putting kind of melody to music.
So like leading up to that though, like what bands were you listening? Because I mentioned the Sam I Am reference, and it sounded like you guys agreed. Obviously, was that a band that you were listening to prior to joining the band?
I was, yeah. So we were slightly different I was kind of slightly different from everybody else. I listened to a lot of the bands that they listened to, but I also, on my own, I was heavy into like, you know, the Smiths and the Cure and Morrissey and things like that. One of my like favorite bands was Smoking Popes too. So like I like that more kind of crooning type thing. So, you know, when you were asking the question before about like the change in the sound, the music kind of stayed the same when they transitioned from 3-piece crank to Bluechannel. But like as far as the vocal styles between, you know, the original singer and then myself was like night and day. Right? What do you say, Chris? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would agree with him.
So, like, when you guys got together, did you have kind of an initial conversation about what you wanted to do for the sound, or did you just start playing and someone brought a song, and then the, you know, five of you started playing and were like, okay, cool, like let's just go with this, or did someone say, you know what, I really want us to sound like this, like this bit?
No, we just, everything we did, we winged. Me and Jason would come up with some riffs. We'd put them together. We'd make a song. We'd say, here, Brian, here's some finished music. Do what you do what you can do. And that was that. We didn't think we were coming up with a specific sound. We were just doing what we did.
Just kind of like your natural,
that was
just
always
like dicking around.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that was always kind of our approach to songwriting was just what Chris said. It would start out with Jason and Chris collaborating, and then everybody else filling out from there, and then me kind of last coming in, and then from there tweaking it and kind of building upon it if we need to add parts, take parts away, bring in harmonies, things like that. But it was kind of always that kind of cadence.
I've never been able to just have someone give me music and then write a melody and lyrics to that. Like, have you done both, Brian, like during the band or since the band, like where you have seen both sides, where obviously in Bluechannel they're presenting the music and you're writing the melody and the lyrics on top of it to that, and then also have you done it where you've created the song from scratch?
No, so I've never come up with a melody like just. Well, that's not true. Actually, I can't say that's not true. I've had
a melody before you heard the music.
Yeah, so not so much with Bluechannel. There was a period in Bluechannel we had a couple like breaks from each other where we took some time apart and stuff, and we had multiple breaks. And there was one period where I had kind of spent some time with another band, and in that time I was kind of going at things a little bit differently because it was a different group of people, and it wasn't what I was used to, but gave me the opportunity to try some new things as well. But yeah, I think during that period I was able to do that a little bit more.
What'd you like better?
I like, give me the completed music and I'm gonna do my thing.
So what did you write about? Like, what was your focus? Were you like, some people are focused on melody and that's all they care about and the lyrics are just like gibberish? Or some people are like, the lyrics have to be the thing?
When we were like, when I was kind of first starting with them, I guess I was like 19, probably 18, 19. It was the first couple of songs were probably more gibberish than anything else. But for me, lyrics always were super important. So I would kind of make sure it was basically, I was always kind of hard on sleep type person. So I would just, whatever was going on in my life at that time, good, bad, and different, I would put it out there. And sometimes extremely transparent and honest. Now I look back, I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe that I put that out there.
I laugh because
they must have
I
thought I
know
was
the words to the
out of my
songs.
mind.
Wait, Chris, you laugh because why?
I laugh because I know the words to the songs, and I pretty much know every situation the songs mean with Brian. So
I've never like actually really gone into songs. I'm not gonna go into too many, but like, what song are you talking about that would have been like, fuck, like that one's a bit out. That one's like really vulnerable or transparent.
On our first album, it's the second track, Looking at Life Through Dirty Glasses. It's the title track. Yeah, that one was a little bit much. If I'm looking back, and I was like, damn, I was in a dark place. So that's one that absolutely stands out right from the beginning.
What's it about?
It was about being suicidal, actually.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was pretty dark. Yeah, but actually, I say that, but most of the songs kind of, any song that had kind of like a dark struggle kind of feel to it, it usually also had some sense of like other side hope type stuff. And even that song had that as well. But it's kind of like you got to witness struggle in somebody's mind, right? From working through a problem from beginning to end, obviously with no harm being done, but just kind of like working it out, like, and that came a lot in the lyrics, I think, just working through it. Very personal.
Fuck, I see. See, like my mind initially went to, oh, he's writing about girls because I don't know why. So I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna the song about girl. As soon as you said that answer, I was like, man, I shouldn't have asked that question.
No, there was a lot of girls, and sometimes girls led to feeling really crappy, right? So, but or relationships, just kind of like heartbreak type stuff. But it was just life struggles in general too, not just always girls, but yeah, that was definitely where the content was weighted in those kind of struggles.
So Christian, for you, you said that, like, the lyrics and you know what he's talking about in a lot of the songs. Like, were you paying attention to the things he was writing during all the songs you guys wrote?
Yeah, we were living it with him. He's one of our best friends. So we knew, and our drummer's brother, his drummer, who was at the time my roommate and one of my best friends. So yeah, we all had an insight of what was going on with him. And we supported him as much as we can. Sometimes it didn't seem like we were supporting him. Sometimes we could barely support ourselves. Sometimes we were a bad influence on him, and it made it even worse.
We were a mess in our early 20s.
We didn't know what the fuck we were doing with ourselves.
So, like, I'm going to ask more questions. I'm not going to push more on this, but if you feel that I am, like, crossing with any questions you don't want to answer, like, obviously let me know. And I'm not going to dig too deep into that. But, again, if I do, just let me know. But, so, Brian, you come to the table and you're like, oh, hey, I got this song. And then you guys are listening to it. And, like, was that kind of a theme with a lot of songs where it kind of built up and you guys were like, hey, so the last 4 songs seem a little eye-opening, like, should we talk about this? Or was it just like, was it that, like right in front of your face, or was it kind of like a roundabout? You guys are at a diner and like 2 of you guys are like out there just like smoking butts, just out randomly getting coffee, and you're like, so what's up with this song? You're like, it's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's nothing to worry about, basically.
No, honestly, I think if I didn't have that outlet, like, I was a pretty positive dude, and you wouldn't think so if you listened to the songs. Like, I really worked shit out by being cathartic. I mean, that was my therapy in a sense. So those my friends, the people in the band with me, whoever it was, they knew that I was just going to be honest no matter what was going on in my life. That's kind of the way I was. But that's where I really worked it out. And had it not been that way, there were a couple of times where things got a little bit hairy. But outside of that, I think I tried to stay positive, and people saw that, so they weren't as concerned.
How many songs did you guys write before you played your first show? Do you remember?
Oof. Maybe 14.
Jesus.
Yeah, I told you, we never got out much.
Wow. God, I thought you were going to say like 6. Oh, we had a double EP or double LP.
That's all we did, man. Half of them we didn't make it to recording. Only a handful we would play out we would finally get to play out at a show, and then that one show would probably be the only time we played those certain songs, because after that we'd write some more that we thought were better, and we just lose track of those earlier songs.
Did you guys even want to play out, or did you have more fun just practicing and writing songs?
I think we had more fun just practicing and writing songs. We, aside from that, we also ended up investing in our own rehearsal studio. We had one up in North Bergen, one in downtown Jersey City as well. And we would always throw big kegger parties there to pay our rent, which always were successful. We'd probably make 2 months rent from one of those parties.
Wow.
And it was just more fun doing that than playing shows. We didn't have to haul our equipment anywhere, which was always a plus. And we would even get some of our friends' bands to come over and play. It was good times.
This is so fascinating to me. That seems, I have not talked to a band from that perspective, where it's like when you guys played out the shows, you were kind of like, well, I guess it'd be better if we were at our practice studio, with kegs and charging people and have our friends come, than going out and playing these, Skaters World or Pipeline or shit like that?
I think part of it was, like we were saying earlier, the reception we would get at these shows we played out. A handful of people, didn't seem like we were making much of an impact. But when we did our own studio shows, all of our friends were there. It's a fun time, a huge party, always something interesting happening. And that just made it more easy for us and fun for us.
So why did you guys try to play out shows then?
Boom. Sorry.
What did you say?
Well, I wanted to play out. But I think it's fair to say both Brian and I wanted to play shows out and play with other bands in our genre. And once we hooked up with the guys down at the Palace, it really helped us get those guys out. The other two, Brian, Jason, and Chris, they were kind of curmudgeons. They didn't really want to leave the sanctity of the area of Jersey City. So once they got a taste of how fun those shows could be, playing with other bands and making a few friends, I think that opened them up to playing more shows.
Were you guys on a local label?
No.
So everything you put out was just self-released?
Well, Brian, what do you think about One Grand Records? That was our friend Tom trying to start.
It was our friend. Yeah, he was just he worked for a record company himself, and then he wanted to kind of dabble in kind of maybe starting an independent label. And he kind of our first record, Looking at Life Through Dirty Glasses, came out under One Grand Records, which was his. But yeah, I mean that was basically it. Everything else was kind of self put out.
Do you think like you guys had a bit of a hard time getting like I wouldn't say a fan base, like recognition, because your sound was probably just a bit too, like a couple years ahead of what was going on?
I just didn't think anybody liked us.
Somebody recently gave me the feedback, that feedback that like we were a little bit ahead of our time in a sense. I think at the time we didn't think that way, right? But I think that's, kind of looking back in hindsight, it made.
Well, it was a mature sound.
It seemed to be that way.
Yeah, like the sound you guys had, like a lot of the local shows, kids were going there to like point fingers back at the band and jump on each other and go nuts. So it's like if you're a band showing up there that's more of a rock sound with a more like an open sound with like the guitars and shit like that, like, again, that Samiam kind of feel. I don't know, did you guys feel like you wrote songs that would get a crowd to want to jump in your face and yell the lyrics back at you?
Well, I think any band wants that. I mean, that's what a rock band does. That's what they strive for, is to write that big anthem.
Where did you guys record the first record at?
Brian, that place was up in Mamaroneck,
New York. It was Mamaroneck, New York, but I get the name of the studio. But I know that studio, when we went in there, on the wall, like some of the records that they put out, one of them was Slick Rick. I remember, like children's like cool rap. That was awesome. I was like, this is amazing.
So did you guys go in, because you have 12 songs on that record? Did you guys leave any off, or was that all you? Not all you had, but you had 12 songs and that was it?
Those are the 12 songs that we budgeted in to record. I think it was West Studios. Does that sound right, Brian?
West Side?
West Side.
No, that's where we mastered. Was West Side. But the recording, I cannot, and I apologize, I can't remember it. I remember the gentleman's name was Tom that produced it for us, but I can't remember the name of the actual studio. But it was like upstate New York.
So you guys have kind of alluded a couple times that you, or didn't allude, you actually said that you kind of would have like some inner turmoil, or you broke up a few times. Like what was it just a couple members that just butted heads, or like what was the dispute going on there that kind of made that happen a couple times?
You could take that one, Brian.
I mean, I think, each of them a little hiatus from each other. We're all for probably different reasons, but we, as close as we were friendly, we definitely butted heads. And at one period, we partied a lot too, so that never helped for a good dynamic, right?
Wait, why though? I don't get that.
We partied a lot. Like, we partied pretty hard, like rock star lifestyle. So okay. that kind of drove us a little bit apart at some point without getting to script.
So like when you guys would play local shows, did you guys play? I don't know, like was it just like could you literally count on two hands how many local shows you guys played? Because you'd say like you'd just go and practice, and then every couple months you'd go and play a show, and then go back to the cave.
Yeah, I would say we could count them on a hand or two
With
hands.
Shades Apart, I remember that
You play with Shades Apart?
at the Palace. I think that show might have been Shades Apart, Boxcar, and I remember that being like a really fun, awesome show. One that we all really, I think, enjoyed.
Because it doesn't sound like there was really a vision of where you wanted to take the band. Like, was there ever talk about wanting to go on tour?
There were daydreams about going on tour.
Yeah.
But, like Brian said, we all had full-time jobs. Chris Hand was, our bass player, was in the union for an electrician, so that's not something he wanted to pass up on. And Jason was going for his fireman at the time, which he is now a chief. Jamie, he was working for BMG Music in their licensing department, right?
Yeah, the royalties, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and I was working in graphic design at the time, and I was trying to make my money there. And aside from that, that was the mid '90s, and now you're starting to hear all the stories about the hair metal guys from like the '80s and what are they doing now. And one guy you hear from Jersey's was one of the popular bands, and now he's painting houses. So we always had that in the back of our heads, like, we're not going to make any money on this. Like, we're doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And so, of course, our living, our lifestyles, taking care of ourselves, it was always going to come first. And we were at the point where we were a little bit too old to just like pick up and go.
How old were you guys? Like, Brian, you said you were 19 around this time, but
I was the young one. Yeah, I was the youngest of everybody. I think it was about 18, 19 when I started playing with them, and so they're a couple of years older than me. So probably in our early 20s at the time. But we were living, like we didn't. I don't think any of us lived with our parents. Like we all had like rent and stuff like that. So
I'm like trying to find the flyer of that boxcar of that show with Shades Apart and Boxcar. Christian, do you remember what year that show was at all?
No.
Sometimes I ask questions and people are like, how the fuck am I going to remember that? I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe there's a way to. Yeah, I can't find that. Yeah, I feel like there was like a handful of bands that had like this sound where they were good, but just it didn't mesh with like the local shows, like at a Legion Hall show or like church and stuff. Like you guys or like SETI Alpha 6. Did you guys ever play with them? Do you remember them?
Yeah.
In New Brunswick, I think we played with them.
Melody. We played with them at the Loop Lounge too.
At the Loop, and I think the Melody. We used to play with Nooner a lot they were from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like that. So it's like you guys, Nooner, SETI Alpha 6, even Shades Apart. Like I felt like you guys all had that sound that like it was this more mature sound than like that Fat Records kind of thing going on. That like the pop punk emo stuff. So I figure like you guys showing up and playing the shows and then saying like it was hard to get people to like pay attention. It kind of makes sense because it was just so opposite of what like the scene was. Like, do you think there would have been do you think if you just like stayed going into the clubs in the city, like that would have worked out better for you guys, or you just like really didn't care?
No, I don't think that would have worked out for sure. I mean, like I said, New York was just, unless you're already established, like pre-established somewhere, like probably more local, that there was, it was hard to break in just with that alone. But no, I mean, and listen, not to make sure we're stating this correctly, when we did play, like people would come up to us afterwards and be like, holy crap, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't expecting that, or I think they were expecting more of what you were saying. And then we're actually pleasantly surprised by something different. So we would get feedback. We were the ones that kind of felt like we weren't being accepted, but I think people actually, enjoyed it.
I think that's what I'm trying to get to, because I feel like you guys were down on yourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Self-defeating all the way. That was like our mantra. Once again, go back to the lyrics, self-defeat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I felt like, yeah, because I said, remember playing that Skaters World show, and it kind of felt like you guys were, like there was like a self-defeating thing with you guys playing on stage. It was almost like you're like, well, I guess you guys, I don't know, does anyone give a shit? We're gonna play this song. Where I was like, wow, these guys are really good. Like they should be more into the, like, I don't know, should be more positive about their sound right now.
Maybe we were just, I don't know. Maybe we were just like eternally shy, getting up there.
Yeah.
Like you said, like when we were in, we used to have we had another practice spot in Jersey City. It was like an artist studio. So they have all artists and musicians, and we shared a space with Yo La Tango, the band Yo La Tango.
Oh wow!
And we used to throw parties in there, and those were, I mean, like, and we get people too that we didn't know, not just our friends. It'd be like just like huge parties, and that we'd really shine there and have like the most fun. I think we felt like because we were in our home base. I think we felt really comfortable. I think it was just we didn't feel comfortable, kind of. Yeah,
because some of those artists actually lived in their studios there. And they would just come and hang out at our rehearsals and just chill,
Oh, shit, that's awesome. Did you ever have any of those bands like want to take you guys out on the road?
No. Yo La Tango, we shared the space with them, but we never saw them. Like we had to kind of put up our schedules, and we paid half the rent, they paid half the rent, but we were never there at the same time. So that band specifically, and obviously completely different from us, but yeah, I mean, it was just cool to kind of share it with them. But
what is the record that's got the Marshall cabinet on it? It has like no name on it. Oh, past tense.
So those were never really, and this is kind of a good segue, right? We released really one record, the Looking at Life Through Dirty Glasses, and then everything else we kind of just we would put out a 3-song EP ourselves and try to pass them out at shows and do things like that, but we never truly released any other record. So just recently we kind of took them based on when we recorded, and we're re-releasing everything into actual albums now. So I think we have one left to do out of everything we had recorded over the years.
Yeah, Neil over at Mint 500's
Mint 400
help us out with that. And yeah, he re-released Looking at Life and added 3 more songs that were actually recorded with those original 10 that we released, or 8 released. He just recently re-released our EP that we kind of recorded, and some other just solo tracks,
bonus tracks.
Yeah. And now the last batch of recordings that we did a few years ago, he's going to release for us, and that's the one you're talking about with past tense on it. That past tense is the name of a song, and so it's just nice to get it out there. Maybe, but I again, not to feel down on ourselves, I feel like the songs and the records getting released on Spotify and all the streaming platforms are getting as much play as we did back when we were playing live. Hey, you have 5 new listeners this month. Yay!
Oh, that's so
Then the following month, you have 2 listeners. Oh. There you go.
Yeah, that's just hard though, man. That being on Spotify, I hate that. It's I like that they show you that, and I hate it at the same time. So you put up there, and it's you have. It's instead of saying the number, it's just you have less than 1,000. You're just oh man, that could be fucking.
We suck.
So if you had if you could, I don't know, if you could go back from this standpoint now and picture what, I don't know, what would have been. Would you have wanted to go the exact way that it did, or would you have wanted to go back and been I wish we would have been able to get on this label, or I wish we could have gone on tour with this band?
So, Chris, should I tell the story now? Because I think it's time for the story.
Go ahead.
So,
wow. I'm excited for this now.
So we actually had, I would say that, I try to live life with no regrets, right? But I would say this is my biggest regret in life, but it's a collective regret, right? Because it was all of us. So we had interest from Drive-Thru. They had come in, they had flown in to see us from California. And at that time, we had a studio space in Hoboken. Actually, Blues Traveler, I think, recorded and practiced there too. John Popper used to walk by our studio space and give us a thumbs up.
Just walk through our studio.
But anyway, so they came and after they watched a whole practice, and we kind of played our full record, Looking at Life, and then some of the new stuff we were working on. And they wanted to sign us. They on the spot, kind of wanted to sign us. They were talking to our manager at the time, who was the gentleman that had the One Grand Records. And when he looked over, the contract and such, he didn't think it was he didn't think it was good for us to get into that contract, and kind of advised us against it. And we listened to him. So if we go back, I think that's the one point in time that we changed. Like we signed that contract and see where everything else takes us.
Am I mistaken, or do I remember correctly that Drive-Thru's record deal was like 6 records?
I don't remember. I don't remember the actual like detail of it. I remember, like, as far as like some of the things from tour support and merch and stuff like that, it wasn't much like being offered, but I don't remember how many records before. They had talked about, they would potentially have consignment deals with like MCA, I guess Universal.
Yeah.
But I thought it was 3 records, but I might be wrong. But I'm thinking back to 1999 or 2000 or whatever it was.
I think, yeah, I remember that because they were a subsidiary or attached to MCA, and I thought that it was like, I think you're right. I think it was like 3 records, with the 4th one had the first chance to be picked up by MCA or something like that. Like, I just remember hearing the deal and thought it was like fucking awful for any band that signed to that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we don't want to talk, bad about it. It's just at the time.
I could totally say it. Because I don't give a shit. But
we were advised. Yeah, we were advised against it. We listened, and I think even if it was a shitty deal, it might have been still better to get that pen to paper. If I'm looking back.
And who knows, Brian? Right now, we could be painting houses.
No, it's true.
But do you think, like, it didn't sound like you guys really wanted to? It like the band was divided on where you really wanted to take it, depending on jobs and careers, and just it sounds like even if you guys did get signed, okay, I'll put it this way: if you guys did sign that contract, who in the band do you think would have stuck around, and who do you think would have left, so you guys could have grown the band?
I think that people would have like with the other people in the band. I think the idea was like they wanted to like be big, kind of like in an overnight type thing, versus like kind of humping it through a couple of records on a label and just touring nonstop. Kind of wanted to have like that kind of overnight success with assurances that like I could leave my day job. You know what I mean? And we could never really get that, especially in the scene that we were in. Right? It was very hard to get that type of kind of notoriety overnight. I obviously, with the other bands that were signing to Drive-Thru, that wasn't happening. I mean, it was happening like with a little more work and touring and kind of, like I said, humping through it. But I think unless there was guarantees that we were like going to hit it pretty big, I don't know that there was commitment from the rest of the band, to be honest with you.
I feel like the two of you would have been the ones that would have been like, yeah, let's go on the road. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, definitely not.
I think Jamie, the drummer, would have been on the fence about it. I don't think Chris or Jason would be able to hack it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't want to be unfair to them, because it's it's kind of hard to say, but
it's not like trying to like talk negatively. It's just like from the mindset of then, not thinking for them, but just being like what was in front of your face. You can kind of establish where. I think anyone listening can kind of establish like exactly what I thought. Because it just sounded like the guys, and it's not like a negative thing on the other guys. It's just they've been like, no, like we kicked Alan out of our band because he was like, I don't want to tour, and I was like, all right, well, we want to fucking tour, so this isn't gonna work. That's just what it was.
The problem is without all 5 of us, there was no band. We couldn't have done anything without Jason being that center pole that really kept the music and brought the sound to us. It just, there wouldn't have been anything without any of us.
So that's a great answer. I mean, it's like you knew that was just like it. The band was the 5 of you guys.
That dynamic, yeah. And I mean, we did this next record that they're going to put out, the one that you said had the amplifier, but it's going to actually have like a true album cover now and everything. But I don't think people really ever heard that album. But on that one, my brother had moved out of state, and we wanted to put music out, so we found a drummer that actually really did fit well with us, and was pretty similar to my brother's style as well. So it was a good fit, and we were able to get 2 more recordings out with him. So he was definitely a great addition to the band. But really, I mean, it felt different because it was always the 5 of us. But I think outside of that, if you take away anybody else, it's not the same.
What would you say like was I don't think I've ever asked this question. It's fairly light, but like out of the first record, the only record really before the next one comes out, like what do you think was like the fan favorite or like the hit? I'm just trying to think like I'm trying to give people like things to go back and listen to now after like hearing this, where they're gonna go and research you guys and go on Spotify and check out songs. Like I think a lot of people are definitely gonna go at looking at Life Through Dirty Glasses. I don't know, like what would you think would be on like the hit or the popular song from that record?
So I think that it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole thing, right? The one that everybody kind of from the scene kind of jumped on was the poppiest one, which is Chris and Carrie. And it's the one that we didn't really want to play as much because we felt like some of the other songs were so far ahead kind of from a maturity standpoint. So we were like, okay, we'll play it. Of course, we wrote it. Like I said, that was the very first song that I wrote with the band. But that's the one that people kind of always wanted to hear when we played out, especially in like, hall shows and the Palace and those type of shows. But I would say my favorite is the first one, which is Fell Between the Seats. I think that's like if someone, if somebody asks you, hey, if you're trying to like guide somebody to your music and you want to kind of tell them where to start, I would have them start with that song personally.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I think Fell Between the Seats is probably one of my favorites off of that whole record. But you know what? Lately, after we released it with the extra songs, Digging for Worms is growing on me. I don't know why. But yeah, it's just because I haven't listened to those songs in so long, and then released them for us, and now I'm listening to them again. And like, Digging for Worms is a pretty good song.
For some reason, I thought you guys were on the had a connection with Pinball Records. Did you guys ever have any kind of connection with? I mean, I don't see any records where you were on on the Family Tree comp or anything like that. But I don't know why I thought that.
Well, we made friends with Jay because he was at a lot of those shows down at the Palace, and I think he was friends with Andy at Puncture Point, who released the one comp that Chris and Carrie was out on, and we didn't really have any affiliation with Pinball Records, but we knew Jay. He was one of the nicer people we met down there, so any friendly face or somebody that would actually go out of their way to say hello and talk to us, we're happy to talk to them. Hey, somebody's talking to me. Oh,
I think I'm thinking that because Aceti Alpha 6 was on that label, and I can put you guys up there with the same kind of sound, mature sound from back then.
We actually played with Penfold a handful of times.
I could see that. That would be a good show.
Yeah, we played with them down in New Brunswick. One of the parties, one of those like kind of like studio type parties, they joined us with, and I think there was another one. I don't know who put it on. It was somebody else's kind of like studio party, and we were invited with them. But no, those guys were great, and we got along with them really well. So I think we played with them out of state too somewhere. It might have been like, God, was it like Pennsylvania or somewhere? Anyway, but yeah, we definitely enjoyed when we got to play with them as well.
Was there any local bands that you saw? And because I know a lot of bands sometimes will look, what am I trying to say? Like, I know like local bands would see other local bands, and two would probably gravitate towards each other of trying to one up them, or like not in like a negative way, but kind of push them to want to write a song like that or better. Was there any local bands that you guys played with where you're like, oh man, did you hear this? Like, we got to do something like that, or we have to top that song?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Yeah, I never really went at it like that.
Kind of in your own space.
Yeah, and not trying to be like, kind of pretentious.
No.
Kind of definitely appreciated, like, everybody brought different things. Like the bands that we played with, we loved it when everybody was so different and not kind of the same. Like I said, like us playing with Penfold, completely different. Yet you could see us playing a show together, right, where it would make sense.
Yeah.
But completely different kind of approaches and sound. So we actually enjoyed that when it wasn't going to be, just a lot of the same. Even as fans hanging out and watching these other bands play, we're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I don't know that we kind of looked at it and said, we gotta take something like that and do that. Obviously, I always love harmony. So when I heard people getting super crazy with harmonies, I would always want to kind of up myself on that front. But that was from any band that I heard, whether it be local or somebody I was following.
So how did you guys officially like call it quits, or did you not have an official breakup?
It's never official. But.
Well, some people there was a band I talked to recently, and they are like, yeah, we just stopped playing shows, but we never said we broke up, and every couple of years we'd get together and play. It's like, but to this day, we're still, I guess, technically a band.
Well, we got together one day last year, Bri?
Yeah.
Basement in Nutley.
Yeah, we just wanted to see each other. He happened to have a whole setup down there, so we played a couple songs. Actually, I just put it up on Facebook not too long ago, but we were a little rusty, but it was fun to get together. But we used to do we had 300 final reunion shows, but each one was going to be the final until the next one was the final.
That's common.
But I think it was probably 2007, 6, 7, where we probably kind of stopped. And then I moved to Florida in 2009, and that's really where it kind of completely stopped.
So, did the majority of the guys still live up in Jersey, or did anyone else move outside?
Yeah, me, yep. Jason, and Chris Hand are the only ones still living in Jersey.
And Steve is in Jersey, the second drummer that we had. Yeah. And then my brother is in Colorado. So me and him are kind of the out-of-staters.
I was going to say, if you guys were still living there, do you think you would get together here and there and play a show, or...
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually talked about it, and it's still not off the table. There's a handful of songs that we wrote kind of in probably mid-2000s that, like Chris said, there's a lot of stuff that we never recorded. And some of them were just it's probably better that they were never recorded. But there's a handful that, even if not one person listens to it, just so we have it, we just really believed in those songs, and we never got the chance of going to studio with them. If we get the opportunity, we still may do that. Like I said, even if it's just for ourselves.
That's awesome. And now, real quick, on the cover of the album, Brian, is that you? Is that your face?
Chris, where did
Which
you
one?
get
Looking
that
at life?
Yeah.
That's yours truly, baby. My angry eyebrows. My angry eyebrows give it away.
Oh, that's funny. Because Brian, you were the guy, you always wore glasses. That was.
Yes.
Yeah, so I thought that was you, initially, but that was Christian. Interesting.
Yeah, I never wore my glasses outside the house because I didn't want to look like a dork.
Like me. Yeah, I always had dirty glasses, always. I was known for it, notorious. So that the album cover made sense. Well, the album name.
Fucking, I'm looking through. Wait, so is the video you said you played that you posted, was that in your personal page, or is that on the Bluechannel Facebook page?
I think I put it on my personal page, and then Chris might have thrown it on the Bluechannel page. It's a song from Looking at Life. It's called Down a Size.
Okay, because I'm just searching around for it right now. So we put a link on the page. I don't know. I pretty much was gonna wrap this up, but do you guys have any cool funny stories or things? Because a lot of people I talk to, they're yeah, we were talking to the rest of the bandmates and things, and we were trying to remember, write things down, and then sometimes I don't know that they had this list. So did you guys do that and say oh, we definitely need to talk about this thing?
We have a ton of funny stories, but some are incriminating. So
you don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to mention any specifics, but we once played a college in front of 500 people, and I'm not going to mention the college, but on the way out, we were carrying our equipment, and some dude from a fraternity pushed Chris, wouldn't get out of the way, and elbowed him, and that, I think, a full-on riot ensued, possibly.
Yeah. Well, everybody in that place was fighting. Frat boy against frat boy.
And we were banned for life from that college. I'll just say it that way.
Let me guess. They fucked with Chris's equipment.
No, I think the kid threw a hard shoulder into him as he was walking by, and Chris is and Chris, if I don't know if you just decked him or put your guitar down and just turn around and decked him, and then within 5 seconds, his entire fraternity was there, and we all kind of just we very quietly just got away and pulled off.
Everybody else was still fighting, and we're the ones that instigated it all.
Oh, I thought you said Chris. I thought you meant Chris the bassist, Chris.
No, Chris Bennett. Chris.
Oh, hence that's why my joke came about, because I was his equipment.
We're driving away because the road leading out was a long winding road, and as we're driving away, all these cop cars are just flying past us, headed to the scene.
Holy shit.
Dude, I don't know.
I was the last one there,
I think
too.
It was Jamie, because Jamie was sitting in the back seat and counting all the money. He was like, "Holy shit, we just made $600."
I was just gonna ask if you guys got buddy. So you guys like leave, you start a riot, you still got paid, and then you're asked to never go back to that college ever again.
We were asked to never come back.
Did you ever go back there like solo and to party, or was it like you just literally were like?
I was a student there. I was a student there. They didn't, you know, they didn't put two and two together.
Oh, that must have been
yeah.
awesome.
So the band like itself was like banned, but they didn't realize that one of their students was in that band.
So basically, anybody, if you follow the breadcrumbs of Brian's LinkedIn page, you can probably see what he's talking about.
Yeah, possibly. And I was the last one. Like all these guys left together in like the truck that like the van or truck, whatever we had at the time that was carrying equipment. I had my car. They all left, and I'm there by myself. There's like a full-on brawl happening.
Oh, shit.
People don't even know why they're fighting at this point. And I just kind of like by myself. I got my messenger bag wrapped around my shoulder, and I'm just walking away. Go to my car and just take off.
Holy
Like,
shit. Any other awesome stories like that I should get before I end this?
Yeah, it might have to be a part 2 because definitely too many.
We got time for one more.
I don't know which one to do. The CMJ one, Chris, or the Palace with Jamie being held up from the back.
What's the CMJ? What happened at CMJ?
That there was that pretty popular band. I'm not going to mention their name. They were walking down the stairs, and you guys were walking up, and somehow you and Jamie do a fight with them,
Jesus
and
Christ.
it bled outside, and we got thrown out of there.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Like I said, we partied a lot back then.
It's just surprising to me because you guys seem like such a quiet band, and it seems like you guys were quite the aggressors.
We were quiet because we were fucked up.
No, we
all
weren't aggressors.
Freaked out and paranoid. They didn't want to talk to anybody.
No. Where we grew up was a little kind of, you know, a little roughness. Not rougher, but like it was kind of, you know, there's a lot of like me and my brother used to get jumped like in our town. You know what I mean? Just walking home. So we always had that kind of like, you know, looking over our shoulder type thing. So, you know, somebody like throwing a shoulder at Chris was never going to play well for them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because we weren't like that kind of stand down kind of stuff.
Well, you said you grew up in Jersey City, right?
Yeah, Jersey City, Hudson County, that area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if somebody throws like a hard shoulder at you, like that's, you know, that's a sign of aggression. We weren't going to be like, oh, did you not mean to do that? Did you mean to do that? It was like, are you kidding me, dude?
I feel
we're
like
not talking.
it's like there was a couple interviews I've done where they're talking about the Pennsylvania scene where there was a lot of skinhead presence. And I remember playing a show one time where these 3 skinhead guys were just in the crowd, and the guy just like started a fight with me, and I was like, dude, I am not aggressive. I am not like, I don't fight fucking anybody because I get my ass kicked. I feel like it sounds like if it was like you guys at a show like that, you would have been like, oh yeah, let's go.
Well, no, but listen, trust me, we prefer to get along with everybody and truly, you know, just kind of have a good time. But,
Until
you
it
know,
showed up in your face, and you were like, all right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just didn't back down for that kind of stuff. But and you know, we probably should have. Like the older I get, I wouldn't be like, yeah, maybe that was dumb. But
Yeah, I would have been feeling that shoulder bump for days if it happened to me now.
Oh God, days like
so
months.
I'll give you one more funny one. So
Yeah.
at the Palace, and it was a pretty packed show. I don't remember who the other bands I played. Across the street there was a bar from the Palace. I'm just going to leave it at that. And my brother was, you know, old enough to drink, obviously, and went over there and spent. We had to wait like hours to play. So he was in there for a very long time.
It was
and
his birthday. That's why.
Yeah, that's right. It was his
Jamie's
birthday.
birthday.
It was his birthday, so he just went all out. He got really drunk. And he was so drunk that he couldn't. So when we finally got up to play, he couldn't, like, he had his seat and he couldn't like support himself. So our manager held him up with his hands like support, like a back support, the whole show, and he absolutely killed it. Like he played amazing, with his eyes closed in a complete stupor. Which we said to each other, "Holy shit, he really is that good." But yeah, that was
just
pretty.
as drunk.
Or maybe we were. Yeah, maybe it was everybody was so drunk they didn't realize how bad we sounded. But
It's like that scene from Wolf of Wall Street where he does the Quaaludes and he thinks he had like the perfect night, and he sees the next day if I just destroyed everything with his car.
could be. We'll never know, I guess.
Holy shit. So I got 2 more questions, and I'll let you guys get back to normal life. But I do appreciate you guys finally taking the time to talk. This is fucking great. And I think a lot of people are going to be really stoked that if, got you guys on here. First question before I ask the last question. What would you guys like to plug?
Oof.
Can I take this one, Chris?
Go for it.
You both can.
So on Mint 400 Records, they're putting out all like our whole discography. The last album that's coming out, it's called This As a Drawing. So it's Bluechannel, and then the album is called This As a Drawing. That's one that I don't think anybody really got a chance to hear, and some of the songs on there I think we're the most proud of. So we would love people just to listen to it, because I think there was a lot left unsaid, and now we get the opportunity to kind of put it out. So I would love for people to check it out. That's all.
Cool. Christian, you want to add anything?
No, that's exactly what I would have said. Probably better, though.
All right. So last question. You both can, either one of you can take it, or one can go after the other one's done. What scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Poof. What scene ethics, Brian?
Did we follow ethics? I think that's what we were talking about all night. We kind of didn't really.
That's how I feel like this is going with this.
Yeah.
No, listen, I'll take the question a little different way. If I were to get an opportunity to, like you said earlier, maybe do that again, right? Just been more kind of involved in a sense, right? Less kind of standoffish like we were. And that, like I said, that was just kind of maybe some insecurity, just stuff like that. But definitely been more secure in what we were doing, and the fact that we just loved what we were doing. So that should have been security in and of itself.
Perfect. Christian, you want to add to that?
No, I think that was perfect.